Good afternoon, everybody. We don't have an elected chair as of yet, so I will be starting the meeting. So in the absence of a chair, I will now call this meeting of the Police Services Board to order. I'll start by reading the land acknowledgement statement. We acknowledge with respect the history, spirituality, and culture of the Anishinaabeg, the people of the three fires known as the Ojibwe, Odawa, and Potawatomi Nation, who have inhabited this land from time immemorial, and further give thanks to the Chippewas of Saugeen and the Chippewas of Nawash, now known as the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation, as the traditional keepers of this land. We also recognize the Métis Inuit, whose ancestors who shared this land and these waters. May we all, as treaty people, live with respect on this land and live in peace and friendship with all its diverse peoples. So, as this is the first meeting of the board for this term, I will now be calling our members to take their oath of office. I will start with member Barry Hatt. If you could please approach. So, essentially, what's going to happen is you're just going to read this declaration, and then you and I are both going to sign it.
I, James Barry Hatt, has been elected to the office of Police Services Board member in the municipality of Georgian Bluff. Do solemnly promise declare I will truly, faithful, and impartially execute this office to the best of my knowledge and ability. I have not received and will not receive any payment or reward or promise thereof for the exercise of this office in a biased, corrupt, or any other improper manner. I will disclose any pecuniary interest, direct or indirect, and according to the Municipality Conflict of Interest Act. I will faithful be true allegiance to His Majesty Charles III, and I make this solemn promise declare, consequently believe to be true, and knowing that this is the same force and effect as made under oath, declared before me at the Township of Georgian Bluffs in the County of Grey on November 14, 2023.
The date is wrong. Apologies. It would be March 14th, 2023. Okay, I will now invite member Peter Hughes.
I, Peter James Hughes, have been elected to the office of Police Services Board member in the municipality of the Township of Georgian Bluffs, to solemnly promise and declare that I will truthfully and faithfully and impartially exercise this office to the best of my knowledge and ability. I have not received and will not receive any payment or reward or promise thereof for exercise of this office in biased, corrupt, or any other improper manner. I will disclose any pecuniary interest, direct or indirect, in accordance with the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act. I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to His Majesty King Charles III, and I make this solemn promise and declaration conscientiously believing it to be true and knowing that it is of the same force and effect as if made under oath.
Wonderful. Thank you both. Now moving on to the election of board chair, as this is the first meeting and is customary. So the recommendation is that one member of the Police Services Board be appointed board chair. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please?
I'll move that Sue Carlton be, her name be put forward as chair of the Police Service Board for Township of Georgian Bluffs.
I, Barry Hatt, second.
Are there any other nominations? And I'll call the vote. All in favor that that Mayor Sue Carlton be appointed board chair of the Police Services Board? Just show hands, thanks. Okay, that is carried. Thank you. So as we now have an elected chair, I will turn it over to Mayor Sue Carlton to resume duties of the chair for the duration of this meeting.
Thank you. So our next item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda or additions to the agenda. So are there any additions? Go ahead.
Yes, I'd like to add under new business, board training.
And I would also add discussion about the Police Service Board conference at the end of May. So the recommendation that the agenda be approved as presented, I will ask for a mover and a seconder. As amended. Thank you.
So moved. Barry Hatt.
I'll second that.
Is there any discussion? Seeing none, I will call the vote. All in favor? That is carried. Declaration of pecuniary interest. If any member has a declaration of pecuniary interest, you can declare it at any time during the meeting. So minutes of the previous meeting, the recommendation is that the minutes of the Police Services Board meeting held on August 9th, 2022 be adopted. Could I have a mover and a seconder?
I'll move that motion.
I will second that motion.
Is there any discussion? And I will be relying on you two since I was not at that meeting.
It was a long time.
It was. Seeing no discussion, I will call the vote. All in favor? Excellent. We are on to delegations and public question period. I will just read out for the public that any person who wishes to appear before council or before the board regarding an item on the agenda shall make written application to the clerk by 3 p.m. the day of the meeting. Do we need to revise that to 9 a.m. of the day of the meeting? We'll amend that to read 9 a.m. the day of the meeting. And to register, you can go online to georgianbluffs.ca delegations or call the clerk's office at 519-376-2729, extension 603. So we do not have any delegations or public question period today. Correspondence, there is none. We're down to reports and recommendations. The Detachment Commander's Report year-end 2022. The recommendation being that the Detachment Commander's 2022 year-end report be received. I'll ask for a mover and a seconder.
So moved.
Second.
So I'm going to turn it over to Detachment Commander Paul Richardson to speak to this report. And welcome, Commander Richardson. We haven't met, but I'm sure we will at some point. So go ahead with your report.
Thank you, Your Worship, and congratulations. Can you hear me okay before I get rolling too much?
Yes, we can.
Wonderful. Congratulations on your appointment as board chair, and I look forward to meeting you in person. I'd like to begin with an apology. I didn't realize there was an option to attend in person today, or I would have. You can rest assured that next time I will be in person, because I think, notwithstanding COVID, I think these meetings are far more productive when we have the opportunity to meet in person. So my apologies. I wondered, Your Worship, if you were interested in a little background in me or just diving right into the report, and either is fine.
I think some background would be wonderful so we can get to know each other a little bit better.
Okay. So I have been I should say also that Acting Staff Sergeant Marla Barfoot is joining us as well. So I've been a police officer for 22 years, the majority of which was in the Grey Bruce area. I've done what I like to say, just about everything you can do at detachment. I tried to do it, from crime to street crime to marine to traffic, major investigation, drug investigation, all of those things. I've dipped my toe in the water and have experience with those. I've been a detachment commander at Bruce Peninsula when it was standalone. I was a detachment commander in Bancroft, a detachment commander in Wellington County for 2 years before I came back to Grey Bruce. So I bring with me a little bit of experience, and then off the side of my desk, I am also a public order commander. So some of the things you saw in Windsor and Ottawa fall under my purview, and I'm also a critical incident commander working with our tactical teams in the area for high risk incidents. So that's a pretty broad professional overview. Personally, married for 30 years to the same person, obviously, for 30 years. And I have 3 children, 2 of which are just about to be off the payroll, one of which is joining the OPP, as a matter of fact, and then a third that's doing post-grad at university, all university graduates. So yeah, I've been in the area my whole career. My wife is rooted in the area, so it's a pleasure to be back in the area and serve the folks of Grey Bruce.
Well, welcome and thank you.
So we'll move on to the report, if that's okay. What we've done as a detachment is a bit of a year-end format, just to encapsulate what's gone on in the previous year. So I'll start with our crime unit. We have a robust crime unit consisting of a detective sergeant and 7 detective constables who are kept very busy with the investigations of what we call benchmark crimes or serious crimes in the area. They have unfortunately had a number of homicides to investigate or assist with. The most recent being one that occurred in West Grey, although the offender was captured in our area. And they still provide assistance to the West Grey Police Service with that investigation. They've done a large-scale fraud investigation. It's on the go. Lots of resources assigned to that with the support of our anti-rackets. Our anti-rackets unit works out of our general headquarters, and they provide support in major investigations where frauds are concerned. The Chisor homicide, which was it was a challenging one, whereby it required a lot of investigation and a lot of investigative prowess, and our team worked diligently to solve that. There were ties to other urban areas in the province. It wasn't specific to the Grey Bruce area, so they were able to follow those leads and bring that to a successful conclusion. We're very, very proud of the work they did. These units quite often speak on behalf of the victims who can't speak for themselves, and they work diligently to provide answers in this investigation. We're very proud of their efforts. Moving on to our community street crime units, what we refer to as CSCU. These folks focus on community drug and property investigations, and they've had a lot of success this year. They also have a lot of impact on our communities. They began a drug trafficking investigation from some source information that led to a successful execution of a warrant, seizure of 275 grams of fentanyl. Fentanyl, as you know, is a very dangerous substance. It leads to a lot of our opioid poisonings, and quite often the opioid poisonings, if not addressed, lead to death, and it's something that we work diligently to prevent. In relation to that same warrant, there was 495 grams of methamphetamine, 66 grams of cocaine, and a number of pills. All of these efforts have a significant impact on our communities and the safety of our communities. In June, they executed another warrant. I should also point out that they work in conjunction, not in isolation. So the Community Street Crimes Unit in Grey Bruce will work with the Wellington Street Crimes Unit, the Huron Street Crimes Unit. It's a force multiplier for us. We get a number of assets on the ground, and it certainly enhances not only the quality, but the speed of the investigation. And as we go forth in the report, I'll speak to the drug portion of the statistics, and you'll see a large drop in drug investigations. And really the reason behind that is the legalization of marijuana, and that's no longer a focus for us, but also the realization that our investigative resources and prowess should be dedicated to the investigation of those manufacturing and distributing illicit drugs, as opposed to focusing on the end user or the simple possession, if you will. You may be aware that the CACP, the Canadian Association of Chiefs of Police, have taken a position that that supports the decriminalization of simple possession, allowing us to focus on those investigations. So that's why you'll see our community street crime units taking on more complex investigations and having larger seizures. Really, addiction is a public health issue and is tied tightly to mental health as well. So we choose to treat addiction as a public health issue and then focus on those that are benefiting from the manufacture and distribution of drugs. So it's a bit of a switch in the way we do it, but we see some success, particularly in the world of what we call the Good Samaritan Act. So now if people do summons help to support somebody who is having an opioid poisoning, they're free from being prosecuted for certain charges, so they feel free to call the police and they don't have to worry about going to jail, and that quite frankly saves lives. And then we move on to the property portion, where through some very good work, a property crimes warrant was executed on a property that was not in Georgian Bluffs, but was just outside the area. What I can say with confidence is the folks that were involved on this property don't recognize boundaries, and I can assure you that they committed crimes in Georgian Bluffs and many other areas. So the impacts of this are exponential and benefit all our communities. But they seized or recovered a number of stolen vehicles. They also found drugs, and I believe there was firearms there as well. So excellent work by our community street crimes unit. The next portion is something that we're very proud of in Grey Bruce, and Staff Sergeant Anderson wasn't able to join us, but this was a project that she took on, and it's been a massive benefit to all. When we talk about focusing on our public and on the folks we serve, we need to do it in a collaborative way and with fulsome partnerships. We now have what we call an MCERT team, or a mobile crisis response team. This is an embedded clinician program where a mental health professional has an office in Chatsworth and in Wyerton offices, and they monitor calls for mental health. These folks, when the call comes in, they provide support to our officers, and once our officers have deemed the area safe, the clinicians engage and provide mental health supports to somebody who is really a patient, where a police solution is not what they need, a public health solution is what they need. And as you can see, as you look down, just in this 1 month, there was 57 deferrals of people who otherwise would have gone to emergency rooms in the areas of Grey Bruce. That is 57 people who don't need to be seen by nurses, who don't need to be seen by physicians, and who frankly get the right service in the right place at the right time. So they as a patient benefit from the service, and it alleviates pressures on our very pressured medical system. So we're very proud of this. We're watching it very closely and monitoring the statistics very closely, with the hope that we can perhaps lobby for some greater resources as we go forward. So that's a program we're very, very proud of. As I move on into the Crime Stoppers is always a wonderful partner, providing information, and it lends itself to the investigations like the homicides or the street crime or even traffic complaints. So a valuable partner that gives us valuable information. Moving on to our media section, you'll see here a social media post that was posted by Nick Wilson. This garnered a lot of attention. We can never quite tell what the public is going to gravitate to and take an interest in. And this one took quite a bit of interest. That all goes to say that we recognize in policing and in the Grey Bruce detachment that media and information is consumed in a different way. So we focus very heavily on our social media platforms, our Twitter, our Facebook, and Instagram. It's a way to, in this day and age, there's an immediacy to the requirement for information of our folks, the folks that we serve. And this gives us the ability to give them information quickly, accurately, because in the absence of accurate information, inaccurate information generally fills the void. So this gives us an opportunity to provide accurate and timely information to the people we serve, and that gives them a feeling of safety so they know what's going on. And the same officer, Nick Wilson, is also our Community Safety Services Officer. You can see that he's done some fraud presentations to our elderly. That's particularly important to the Grey Bruce detachment, as the elderly in our communities are the most vulnerable. And if whatever we can do to prevent victimization of the most vulnerable is generally or very specifically a focus of ours. Moving on to our auxiliary program, we are blessed in Grey Bruce with a very, very dedicated group of auxiliary officers. Our auxiliary police officers are volunteer. They receive no compensation for what they do. They're trained in use of force, and they wear a uniform, and they ride along with our officers, but they also help us with supplementing our patrols, marine, ATV, bicycle patrols. They supplement our vehicle patrols by accompanying our officers. They also provide services such as Safeguard. We have a Safeguard trained auxiliary member, and that program allows an auxiliary officer to attend a residential property that's been a victim of crime, and they will work with that property in order to give tools and tips to fortify their property so they're not victimized again. Quite often when somebody is victimized the first time, their chances of being re-victimized for property crime is exponentially greater. So we offer the service to give people peace of mind and give them some tools to fortify their properties. I had the great honor of presenting service recognition of almost 80 years to three of our auxiliary members. These are folks that have dedicated themselves to their communities, to the organization, and done it for quite literally decades. I was just so thrilled to be able to present that to them. So there are those that join the auxiliary program as a stepping stone to a career in policing, and there are those who join the auxiliary program just to serve their community, and we have a very good balance of both who dedicate themselves to our communities. We'll move into the statistical portion of the report. You can see there's, in terms of calls for service, there's a steady increase in calls for service to the Grey Bruce area. Now, that is not exclusive to Georgian Bluffs. We see it across the entire detachment area, but you can see there has been an increase in calls for service in Georgian Bluffs as well. As we move on to violent crime, I'm pleased to report for Georgian Bluffs that violent crime is down slightly, although over the area in its entirety, violent crime is up slightly. What I can say in reviewing the numbers is I see no statistical anomalies that give me great concern. Property crimes in Georgian Bluffs are down slightly, again, up slightly over year to year for the area of Grey Bruce detachment, but again, nothing that gives me grave concern of any spikes. Drug crime I spoke to, and that's why you see the significant decline, is because we focus on the more complex investigations. Our criminal traffic in 2022, there were 173 offenses over the detachment area and 11 in Georgian Bluffs. Since January this year in 2023, I expect an increase in that. We've had over the county, last check, we've processed 36 impaired drivers, just impaired drivers since January. I think there's two ways to look at that. It tells me that our folks are out working diligently to keep the road safe, but it also tells me that we have more work to do in the area of education and informing people about the perils of drinking and driving. There were 1,200 motor vehicle collisions in 2022, and then a breakdown of the offenses for the detachment area. which you can read. I don't need to reiterate those for you. And lastly, we have, again, the hard work of Staff Anderson has implemented a 2-person traffic unit dedicated solely to the enforcement of traffic. We hope over time that we can add some more resources to that. I've been reporting to police service boards across the province for a number of years now, and consistently the concern becomes traffic. It's important to recognize that there can be challenges with perceptions where folks think that there's a speeding issue. So we do have some devices that can give us some accurate data and allow us to be a little more tactical in the deployment of our resources. So we're putting the right resources in the right place at the right time. I think everybody on the board can appreciate that resources are not infinite. So the resources we do have need to be deployed effectively. So we take great care to make sure they're in the right place at the right time. We do that through a number of things, through a device that tells us if there's a speeding issue, if so, when it's happening. And then we know where we can put the resources there at specifically the time where there's the challenge of speeding and be most effective in our deployment. I wanted to speak briefly to our summer plan. As we all know, as we come through March, and it pleases me to be a sort of a spring position to talk about summer. But summer always brings a challenge to the Grey Bruce area. We are the destination for those who like to recreate in our area, and that our business is people, and whenever there's more people, there's more business. So we have already implemented our summer plan to address the increase in tourist traffic, as well as the increase in population that always occurs over the summer organically. And we're very confident that we have the resources ready to address the needs as they present themselves over the summer. Frankly, I've been in the area a long time, and I've worked the area a long time, and it's no surprise to anybody it happens. We're prepared for it, and we have the resources we need. And I'm pleased to report that not only at a detachment level, but a regional level and a provincial level, they've supported the needs of the area, and you will see officers from not only across the region, but potentially across the province to support Grey Bruce as we address the challenges of the summer. It's a good problem to have. We definitely welcome the tourism and the folks to our area. They bring great benefit to the area, but we want to make sure that area is safe for them. So we have the plan to address that over the summer. And that concludes my report, subject to any questions.
Excellent report. Thank you. And I will turn to the board members to see if there are any comments or questions. Go ahead, Barry.
Yes, I'd like to question about the impaired driving. I know we do a program in around Christmas time, and after that, do you do programs monthly or shiftly, or because seeing the impaired drivers out there, they don't seem to get the message. So I'm just wondering how many shifts do you do a week, or how do you do that to slow this down?
Thank you for the question. It's so you're referring to the ride grants that we receive from the government, and that's in addition to the regular ride conducted by our members. So we receive funding from the government to bring officers on who are not scheduled to work to supplement our regular ride programs. But every officer, every shift should be conducting ride, notwithstanding if it's one of those shifts where the calls are significant or if there's a significant call for service going on. But generally, if the officers are not engaged in calls for service, you'll see them conducting ride and foot patrol as part of the regular duties.
Thank you.
I just have a couple of comments. I was really happy to read, and it stuck out right away, the 57 diverted calls by mobile crisis response. I've worked in schools as an administrator many years, and it's great to see this sort of thing, and I can truly understand how it's helping you and the hospitals, for that matter, with diversions and solving the problem. So that I was really glad to see that and a good media support in the local paper when that team was formed. So that's a positive comment. I'm really glad to hear that. Secondly, on your social media, something that jumped out at me with the snow-covered vehicles as we see in Ontario, and I'll share a quick story going down lovely Highway 400 about 2 weeks ago, heading into the city, and it almost led to road rage. I think it could have been road rage. They were going so fast after one another, but ice flew off, hit this guy beside me, bang on the windshield, and I don't know how he didn't go off the road, but he literally went after the guy. I didn't see what happened after that, but any social media that can be pushed out on that one, it's seasonal because we know we get, especially up here, we get snow on vehicles, and then we get that warm 1 or 2 days lookout, and it'd be lovely if we had budgets for billboards that we could seasonally advertise different things that happen on our highways. Maybe that's an idea for some budgetary thing down the road, but anything we can do in that area, and maybe you have some other ideas yourself about not just the snow and ice, but just getting the message out there about all the issues that you must deal with on it, a multitude that happen all the time. Thank you.
And I appreciate your comments. We actually encourage all of our officers. Well, our cars are a rolling office now. There's computers in there. Every car is now outfitted with an in-car camera. And as part of that in-car camera, there'll be an activation of the automated license plate reader program. So there's quite a bit of technology in that car, including a phone. So we encourage our members to, if they see something that would be media worthy, to capture that on their phones, and they'll share it with Nick Wilson, with Constable Wilson, and we try and get it out. Again, a force multiplier. It's many eyes and many observations. So I truly believe in the power of social media.
Thank you. And I would like to comment too on that number of people diverted from being taken to the hospitals. That was something that came up when I was on the mental health and addictions task force at the county this past year. And good to see that happening, because taking those people to jail doesn't do them any good. They're far better served being dealt with as an addiction rather than as a criminal. So I think that's excellent to hear. And I can also add something about the snow on vehicles. I actually pulled in one night to get fuel, not realizing that my license plate had got covered with snow just from driving. And when I went in to pay for fuel, the guy in the station said if I had been trying to pay by credit card at the pump, he wouldn't have turned the pumps on because he couldn't get a visual on my license plate. So they may be helping the police out with that little bit of information when people go in to pay. So
we'll take the help from wherever we can get it.
That's right. Yes. So thank you very much for your report. That's excellent. And I don't have any further questions if no one else on the committee does. So we have no further discussion on that. So I'll call the vote on that recommendation that we accept the report. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. So thank you very much, Commander Richardson. I don't know if we have anything else for you, and I welcome Staff Sergeant Barfoot on here as well. Thanks for being with us today. So we will move on with our agenda today. So the next is about our board meeting schedule. And the recommendation is that the 2023 Police Services Board meeting schedule be approved and that staff be directed to publish 2023 board meeting dates on the township's website. Can I have a mover and a seconder, please?
I'll move that.
Then we'll discuss.
Okay.
Okay, so is there any discussion then?
I would like to see the board meetings be at 1 o'clock instead of 9 a.m. in the morning. I do have other commitments on Tuesday mornings, and if I'm traveling from my cottage up in the peninsula down here, it's a lot easier for me to meet the 1 o'clock meeting than the 9 in the morning.
Thank you. And I would agree. I actually, anytime our meeting lands up being on the second Tuesday of the month, I have a conflict in the morning with long-term care. So if we can change to 1 o'clock, perhaps I should ask Commander Richardson how that time would work for you, since we're likely going to be asking you to attend all of these.
Thank you for asking, but that time works very well. We're happy to accommodate your needs.
Okay, thank you very much. So to our clerk, can we amend that to read the change? I'll let you read it.
Through you, Madam Chair, I would suggest that we just add a line to the motion that says that the time for regular meetings be amended from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m.
Okay, and I will ask the mover and seconder if they are okay with that change. Okay, seeing that, then I will call the vote. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. So we have no unfinished business. Under new business, Waterloo Region Police Services Board motion at the request of member Peter Hughes. So I will turn that over to you, Member Hughes.
Thank you. Barry and I attended via Zoom a zone meeting on March the 7th, and this through the Waterloo Regional Police Service Board, and it was hosted by Waterloo. They presented us with a draft motion on bail reform, and it basically, I'll quickly give the highlights of it. We've all had a chance to read it, and it's been brought about as a result of tragic police fatalities recently in our country that have been, I won't say totally avoidable, but with possible amendments to different things put in place that are not there yet, could possibly have played a role in prevention in such tragic incidences. And the one that they gave example to was the most recent one of Constable Greg Perchala, and it got a lot of people talking about the need for some type of review and reform. And to highlight where they wanted to focus on was primarily with repeat violent offenders who have been charged or been in possession of illegal firearms, and also firearms that have been involved in criminal activity. They're looking for a revision of how these individuals obtain bail, and to give it serious review, and in some cases, depending on the conditions of the individuals, possibly hold them until their trial commences. Also, that the same offenders not be granted house arrest or GPS bracelet monitoring privileges in certain conditions, and people who do not comply with their conditions of their release do not get further court ordered conditions of release. It's looking for, when you get time to read through it, it follows a flow of situations that have arisen that had certain conditions been in place, they may have prevented tragedies. And it puts the onus on the violent offender to show why they deserve a court order of release prior to their trial. It puts the onus on them. So through the Waterloo Regional Police Service Board, they're basically looking for all police service boards to show support. So I was going to put forth a motion shortly to support the draft motion put forward by the Waterloo Region Police Service Board. But there's obviously a lot of work to do here, but it's a starting point. And then there's another brief discussion that was talked about after this, that we about possibly approaching our provincial and federal local MPPs and MPs to take this a step further. But I'll leave it at that for now. That it was put forward to us, and basically what they're looking for is a draft letter from our board supporting this motion moving forward, and they're looking for that from all police service boards in Ontario. That's my comments on that.
Barry, do you have any comments to make on that one, or? Go ahead.
No, Peter has covered quite well, and we certainly need some reform done there.
I would agree. So I will turn to our clerk to see exactly how we proceed with this.
Through you, Madam Chair, we could do a few things. One suggestion would be our council follows a process for supporting resolutions as they've been passed by other councils, etc. So you could give staff direction to forward a letter supporting the resolution that was passed by Waterloo. So you could do that. You could also pass a resolution very similar to that of the Waterloo Police Services Board. I reviewed the motion. It looks pretty comprehensive, and some of the correspondence did suggest that, you know, that this is wording that could be changed and amended just based on your police services board. So I would leave it up to the board to determine how they want to move forward with it. The next meeting won't be until May. So if you're looking to have something put on the table sooner rather than later, you do have a couple options.
I think if we could just pass a motion to send Waterloo whether it be done by email, however we communicate, and it was Karen Redmond was, I believe, their chair of their police service board. From our police service board, that we unanimously, now we'll have to vote on this motion, but we would unanimously agree to support this motion, this draft motion on bail reform moving forward, and support them in their resolution. After that, I don't know whether well, let's leave it at that for now, and then I'll make another comment. Sec. Okay.
So Carly, if we have this as a motion from this board, it goes in our minutes, which would then go to all of council for council to approve our minutes, which could then allow this motion to go forward to Waterloo. Is that the right sequence? Okay. So if we pass a motion here, are we passing a motion that we are going to support theirs, or are we making our own?
I believe at the point in the meeting, and this was all done via Zoom, they were just looking for our board to support them moving forward. But there were other discussions about putting it forward to council to send letters to the two provincial parliament and federal reps regarding their I can't comment for council, but their feelings of this draft motion. But my feeling was they wanted support moving forward from all police service boards. That was step one. And that's sort of what I was trying to do here today.
So this could be a two-piece. We send from this board support to Waterloo, that we make that motion, and that we make another motion forwarding this for all of council of the Township of Georgian Bluffs to forward to the MP and MPP. Am I right, Carly?
Through you, Madam Chair. So this board can acts as an advisory board to council. So essentially, you could pass a resolution and ask that council support it, and then there would be one piece of correspondence going out. And or if you wanted to give direction to provide your own. But either way, council does essentially ratify your minutes, which ratifies the actions resulting from this board.
So does one effectively do it? Can we combine it all into one motion? I guess where I'm coming from, I'm thinking one motion would have this board supporting Waterloo, and that's a separate. But the other motion is asking council to also support and to forward to the MP and MPP.
Through you, Madam Chair. So my recommendation would be that the board pass its own resolution today and that Mayor Carlton, as a member of the board, pull the minutes from the consent agenda to allow council to forward another letter of support.
Okay, and we'll let the clerk wordsmith that so that we have the right motion. We give you a couple of minutes to do that, Curly.
Through you, Madam Chair, I do have the motion as it was presented by the Waterloo Police Services Board. Now, I'm wondering if there's anything about the motion that the board would like to change, or if we're comfortable with passing a similar resolution that is tailored to the Township of Georgian Bluffs.
No, I don't think we want to change the motion on that. Yep. In the very last paragraph, yeah. So therefore be it resolved that the Township of Georgian Bluffs Police Services Board calls on the provincial and federal governments to collaborate to enact sector-wide reform to Canada's bail system, including broadening the application of the reverse onus protocol and ensuring that provincial bail policies and directives integrate these new proposed legislative changes. Plus the entirety of all the rest, but none of the rest of that has changed. We've just added that. Okay. Do you want to read the whole motion? No. It is rather long.
Would you like a general motion to
Sup-
put forth to support this?
I think that's where we're at, is we need somebody to move and somebody to second, and we'll vote on it. And then that puts it as part of our minutes, which will then go to all of council.
Yeah, through you, Madam Chair. So we're passing the motion that was passed by the Waterloo Police Services Board, except the last paragraph has been amended as the chair had read to customize it to the Township of Georgian Bluffs Police Services Board. So it's about a page long.
Yep.
But you would just need a mover and seconder. If you're comfortable with how this motion stands, you would just need a mover and seconder, and then you would take the vote. And then this would, in the process that I explained before, this would go into your minutes. And then Mayor Carlton, as a member of council, would be able to pull these at a council meeting and speak to the motion as passed by the board.
Okay. So I need somebody to move and somebody to second.
I will move this motion, the draft motion on the bail reform.
I will second it.
Okay. And if there's no further discussion, I will call the vote. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. So then we are on to the next item that we've added, which is training. And I will turn it over to you, Barry, to speak to that one.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. The board is changing its structure, and at our conference coming up in
May.
maybe at that time, we should see where the board is going, or whether the act is going to stay the same. And then I think after that, I think this board should have some training done. I don't believe there has been any training done at this municipality in a long, long time. So I'm certainly think that we should be updated on the training.
Okay, I'll turn to the clerk on this one. Do we need a motion on that, or this is just? How do we go forward with that? Because I'm totally in agreement. I've been on here for 8 years and I've never had training on this at all. So I think it would be good for all of council.
Through you, Madam Chair, with respect to the training, I would suggest maybe that we have some collaboration between members who are attending that conference and myself to investigate what training opportunities are available. And then I would be able to arrange said training for board members.
So if we were, because I think we're all going to that conference, if we were to come back with that, from that with some more information, then we could bring it back to our meeting after that and then proceed with training probably sometime early fall, because by that time we're into June, July.
Fine. Have to, maybe then too, maybe some other staff or council would like to join in the training.
Yeah, so let's leave that all of us going to Police Services Board will look into that at the conference and come back with information to our next meeting to move forward from there. Okay. So then the other thing I had on Police Services Board, the township's policy on conferences states that only up to $500 of a conference is paid for members of boards and committees outside of council. So I'd like to have a motion again going to all of council whereby we ask that the full amount, full cost of the conference and hotel rooms is paid for the members. So I think that's what we did last year, and I think we didn't change the policy to reflect that. It's been left that we would come back each year with that request. So we need a motion to that effect then, Carly. Do you have that wordsmith for us?
Through you, Madam Chair. Last year, the board had just passed a motion requesting that council provide relief to move beyond the $500 allocation. So a suggested motion could be that the conference fees for members to attend the 2023 OSPAB conference be moved beyond the $500 allocation.
Okay, so if both of you are okay with that, I would need a mover and a seconder on that. And then that will go as part of our minutes to all of council as well. Okay. So moved by Barry, seconded by Peter. I will call the vote. All in favor. That is carried. So I think that is the end of our items. I don't see anything else added on. So the date of the next regular meeting will be May 9th at 1 o'clock. I will now call for adjournment of this meeting. I need a mover and a seconder. Peter and Barry. I'll call the vote. All in favor. We are now adjourned. Thank you. And thank you, Commander Richardson and Staff Sergeant Barfoot. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Have a great day, everybody.
You
Thank
too
you
as
for having
well.
us. Thank you.
Thank you.